All right, so we are in Revelations chapter 8, and this will be the seventh seal and the golden censer. I counted it up. I tried to break this down into sections, so I've got 6 sections here. So if we don't get to all 6, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We'll just pick up wherever we leave off. But I think we probably can get through them. It's not that crazy, but I'm going to start out in Revelations chapter 8. We're going to pick up here in verse 1 and dive right in. When the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and the 7 trumpets were given to them. And another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire, and from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumblings, and flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Okay, so we're going to break this down verse by verse. So what we start off here is with the 7th seal. This seal includes not only an earthquake, but the 7 trumpets of judgment, and the 7 bowl judgments, with the bowl judgments flowing out of the 7th trumpet, and the coming in rapid succession just before Christ's return. And it talks here about the silence here in verse 1, that there was silence for about a half hour. And what you see here with this silence is anticipation. It's like you receive grim news, you receive bad news, and you don't really know how to take it or how to look at it, so you're kind of just like, ooh, like, you something along that lines, and it's the judgment of God that's about to be unleashed on the earth, and that's what we see here in this first passage. But if you pick up here in verse 2, where it talks about these 7 trumpets, and I'm going to read MacArthur here. He says in Revelation, trumpets primarily announce impending judgment. The trumpets are of greater intensity than the seals, but not as destructive as the final bowl judgments will be. They occurred during the final 3 and 1/2 years, but the time of each is indefinite, except the effects of the 5th trumpet judgment, which will last 5 months, and that's in chapter 9, verse 10. The first 4 announce the divine destruction of the earth's ecology, and we're going to look at that in verses 6 through 12. And then, while the final 3 involve demonic devastation on the earth's inhabitants. And again, that'll be picked up in chapter 9. So, what we see here, again, the trumpets are sounding, and just like today, a trumpet acts as a herald. Charge, right? And it's saying this is coming. There's something coming. In a royal court, a trumpet would announce the coming of royalty, of a lord, of a king or queen. This is signaling the judgment that is to come. But I want to pick up here where it talks about verse 3. There's an angel here, and he picks up a golden censer. Now, this is a golden pan, and it hangs on kind of a rope or a chain, and this would have been a common tool used in the temple as an act of worship here. But it's used to transfer fiery coals from the brazen altar to the altar of incense. In other words, you're not going to pick up burning coals with your hand, right? But you can use a censer, and you can take the coals and put them on the plate. Now you can hold them, and they're dangling from a chain, so you can hold them away from you, okay? I don't know if any of you have ever transferred anything hot, but how do you transfer something hot? Like that. You got your oven mitts on, ladies. You got your oven mitts on, okay, or something like that. I don't know if, gentlemen, if you've ever made charcoal on a grill and you had to move a hot grill, you're holding it way out here because you don't want to get it on you. And that censer allows those coals, those burning embers, to be held off of a chain or away from the carrier, so it can be transported. Now, so what he's doing is he's transferring the burning coals of incense in order to the coals to the incense in order to ignite them, and these symbolize the prayers of the people. Now, we already know about the prayers of the saints, right? And we talked about that previously, that there was already an incense in heaven. So you have the incense of the saints, which is mentioned here, and now you have this other incense here, which is all which symbolizing the prayers of the people. Now, we talked about this last week, how there'll be, even though this is a time of divine judgment, this is also a time of redemption for many people. So you have the saints, okay, those that have been martyred, those that have died for the faith, those that have the white robes, that are asking, hey, when is it time? When do we go marching in? You have all that on the one hand, so you have that incense. But now you have the redeemed, and we talked a little bit about the 144,000 sealed last week, and this was all the people that are going to be saved. Now, this is, again, before Christ's return. This is the tribulation period, okay? So there's still chance, there's still opportunity for people. These people are praying, begging God, and all of this incense is coming up. And there was a similar practice in the tabernacle, in the temple, where twice a day, at an appointed time in the morning and the evening, they would do this same practice, this burning of incense at the time of sacrifice. So they would sacrifice twice a day. And what happens here when this, when this incense fills the air, it says that the angel then took the censer and he filled it from the altar. And this is a southern term. The Bible says here he threw it on the earth. In the south, he flung it. Okay? He flung burning coals from heaven down to the earth. And the response was peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. This is surely, and this is according to MacArthur here, surely this is an equal or greater intensity from the one described in the sixth seal. So this is another massive earthquake that will be sent here. But when this happens, this is terror about to be unleashed on the earth. Okay? I don't know, in my book, I don't know what this specifically means, but to me, when you have thunder and lightning, and you have earthquakes, and you have rumblings, and you have, to me, you have almost something, well, this is obviously supernatural in nature, but you're having a weather phenomenon. You're having storms, you're having lightning and thunder and bolts of lightning and a massive earthquake. Like, the earth is responding to this. And it's going to be unique in that we talked about before about the four angels holding back the four winds at the four corners of the earth. So it's hard to have a storm without wind. Well, where did that come from? Well, if the angel flung it down on the earth, I imagine that had something to do with it. But that's just my thoughts on it. I don't take that to the bank by any stretch. So we're going to move on now to our second section here. This is these seven trumpets. So picking up in verse 6 here, it says, "Now the seven angels who had seven trumpets prepared to blow them. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and these were thrown upon the earth, and a third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." So in verse 7 here, it talks about this hail and fire mixed with blood. This could be described as something like volcanic eruptions, and that could definitely result from the massive earthquake that we just talked about in verse 5 there. This could refer to, steam and water thrown into the sky by such eruptions, and this could condense into hail and fall on the earth like fiery lava. Okay, so volcanic eruptions, lava spews, rocks of magma. I don't know if y'all have ever seen, there's a movie, Dante's Peak, right? Y'all ever seen that? Well, anyway, it shows there's another movie called Volcano, and it's about a volcano. It's Tommy Lee is in that, and the volcano erupts inside L.A. in Los Angeles, and it's got just these big some of them are small, the size of baseballs, and some of them are the size of Buicks. And it's just these big rocks of magma, and they land, and they land, they'll crash in a building and everything. It's just a lot of destruction, a lot of force here. And that could be what's happening. Lava erupting up into the sky, and it hardens, and it comes down, and it falls like hell on the earth. These are all possible explanations. Dust and gas may so contaminate falling liquid water that it appears to turn blood red. A third of the trees were burned up. The lava storm could create blazing fire, wildfires, and devastation to a third of the Earth's forest and grasslands and things like that. So there's a very destructive thing that's happening here. To put it mildly, something I thought about could possibly happen, and kind of on the heel of this. So if you had these earth-altering events, right, and you have the lava spews and something else that can be vented at times into the atmosphere, or is poison gas and poison dust and things like that. Now, I'm sure y'all were all familiar with the term acid rain, okay? There are poison rains. So if you had a massive earth event that happened where toxins were released into the atmosphere, and then and the water was poisoned, right? Okay, and it says it turned red like blood. Now, there's a couple of things it could be here. You could be talking about something like a red tide or something like that, where you have these algae blooms that take all the oxygen out. But what I'm talking about is it could be that these toxins get in the rainwater, and then when it rains on the earth, okay, it kills a third of the plant life on the planet, okay? And this would be a very, whatever it is, I'm not saying that is what it is. I'm saying these type of things make sense. All we know for sure is it's going to be bad. But it's going to be devastating to the Earth's plant life. Now it picks up here. Well, do y'all have anything else on that? I don't mean to move too fast.
Well, one thing, we're getting a lot of fires started by lightning now.
And that very well could be, I mean, you think about volcanic eruption, what do eruptions throw up in the atmosphere? Dust and particles and stuff like that. Well, it's pretty well common knowledge that dust in the air actually stimulates rainfall, right? So rain comes with thunderclouds. So it could be a combination of all of these things and more, I almost think it's going to be something unprecedented that we can't fathom. Like, I think it's going to happen maybe like what we're talking about, but it's going to be almost something new that we've not seen, or at least on a scale we've not seen it. You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen like acid rain before, right? Now, if you stood out and got acid rain on you, for a little while, is your skin going to melt off? Well, no, it's not exactly healthy, but you're not going to die from one exposure. But like if you go to areas around cities where acid rain happens a lot, and they have cars that are outside and don't have garages, what happens to the paint? Repetitive exposure starts to peel the paint, right? So it's that type of thing. I just think this is going to be more severe than anything that we can imagine or have been exposed to. Picking up in verse 8 here, this is our third section here. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Now let me back up there. That's what I was talking about, the red tide. I realized I was getting off track a little bit, but this is probably a meteor. Okay, if you think about a meteor impacting the planet, I mean, y'all watched Armageddon, right? Okay. All right, so they talk about that. What happens if a large meteor were to hit the Earth? Well, it's going to flash boil billions of gallons of seawater. It's going to kill all the aquatic life in the area, and it's going to create massive tidal waves that are going to cause devastation. Now, it may be something. It'll actually hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. Multiple nuclear bombs. Now, this goes back to the red tide thing I was telling you about. if you have a nuclear explosion, something basically kills all the microorganisms in the air and depletes all the microorganisms in the water. It can actually deplete the water's ability to reoxygenate itself, right? So now what happens is there's something known as red tide, where it's like a red algae grows, and it'll grow across the surface, and the water will turn blood red. Although that's not the only way it could turn blood red, but it would also explain how a third of the ships get blown out. Because if you're in the if it impacted the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or the middle of the Pacific Ocean, every ship between, I mean, if it's a big meteor, everything between California and Japan, basically everything between North America and Asia, if it's in the water, all right, if it lands in the Atlantic, everything between North America and Europe, all right, so it's going to take out a third of the Earth's ships, a third of the planet ships on Earth, okay? And it says here, the sea became like blood. This may refer to an event known as red tides. Okay, he says that, and also caused by billions of dead microorganisms poisoning the water. The case of the let's see, in the case of the result, the result of the meteor's collision, or it may be actual blood, is a clear act of judgment. So, you think about this: if the planet was, if something that massive took place, and there was that much death in the ocean between man and beast and creature and all the living things that swim in the sea, it could legit turn blood red. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, okay? And that was just imagery of what happened on D-Day, but the tide coming in was red from all the people that died on the beach and getting off the boats. Now, accounts say that's accurate. It was blood red for several days, or even longer, from where the blood of all the people that were killed just filled the bay. Okay, now you picture a meteor landing and killing everything in a body as vast as the ocean. There could be red tide, but it could also be the fact that it's full of blood. Okay. And I'll digress from that, but I mean, it's a very vivid imagery of how devastating. Now, you think about this from the standpoint of how much of our day-to-day lives things you don't even think about depend on the ships in the ocean and the swimmies in the sea. Okay, you with me? So you just lost in the first seal. You lost you lost all these trees. That's fruit-bearing trees. That's wood-bearing trees. That's all. You lost grass, green grass, okay? It's all the green grass now. That's what the critters eat. That's what the deer eat. That's what the cows eat. That's what the horses eat. So you've lost all that. And now you've lost you've lost a third of all your swimmies. Okay, so all the fish, okay? All right? And the ships that would send supplies back and forth between ports, right? This is devastating on not just a level of, man, things are really bad right now on the earth. This is devastating in that you won't be able to get food, and you won't be able to feed. If you had chickens and cows and stuff, you wouldn't be able to feed them to keep them alive, and you can't even wait on a port and hope relief comes from somewhere else because it ain't coming. And you can't cast a net out in the water because everything's dead. Are you with me? So it's just very you can see this is building on itself, okay, snowballing a little bit. Verse 10, the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of this star was Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because it had been made bitter. So what this is talking about here, where the first the thing like a mountain that crashed down, that was most certainly a meteor. Here, this is talking about another celestial body, and the way it describes it, of a blazing torch, almost it might be a comet, okay, with a tail, right, like a torch, and because they have like a fiery tail. and it basically, as it's entering the Earth's atmosphere, it's going to disintegrate and it's going to scatter all over the globe, right? And the effects it has is this thing known as wormwood. Wormwood is a bitter, poisonous substance, and it's derived from a root that causes drunkenness and eventually death. So basically, as this stuff scatters all over the globe, all right, enough to affect a third of the water supply, the fresh water supply on Earth, okay? Now, how would it do that? Now, I don't know if y'all know much about meteors and stuff. I don't, but I'm told when they hit, they impact pretty deep, right? So if you had a large enough meteor come in and it shattered on impact and it kind of scattered, now you've got thousands and millions perhaps of these little, broken up pieces coming down, and they're raining everywhere. And if they go down into the groundwater, go deep enough to get exposed to the groundwater, now they start poisoning the drinking water, okay, the fresh water. And it says here a third of them were poisoned by wormwood. It made the water bitter, meaning like when you drink it, you could taste it. It'd be bitter, but it's poison, right? I'm sitting here trying to think of something that, okay, today there are fresh water sources that you should not drink. The water is fresh; it's not salt, but you should not drink it because there's substances in them that are not healthy to drink. A lot of them are microorganisms, right? They'll make you sick. There's actually, of course, there's a saltwater version of this, but there's actually flesh-eating bacteria in certain areas of the world, and this wormwood's going to be something different. So it's like, okay, like I'll just keep it local because everybody around here pretty well knows. Like around here, we got the Coosa right over here. Y'all have all seen the Mississippi, I'm sure, at some point or another. But these are all fresh water sources, and they all have fresh water. Like right here, and not far from where we are, we have several water plants, right, that filter water and do all the stuff it needs to do. These water sources would become polluted, basically, and be undrinkable. Okay, so and a third of every water supply in the world, would be poisoned by this wormwood. Okay, so now you don't have any food, you don't have any ships. You don't have any fish to eat. You can't keep your now I don't know if y'all know this, but livestock needs to drink. Okay? So what happens when your cows go down the creek and the creek's poisoned? Now all your cows are dead. So what I'm saying is people are about to be, not only are they scared and worried, but they're going to be starving. There's not going to be anything to eat, and now not only is there not food, you can't drink anything. Okay? So it's this is going to be, like I said, it's a snowball effect. It's going from one thing to another. Now, these are judgments, right? They're supposed to be ill effect, right? So, pick up here in verse 12 here. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of the light might be darkened, and a third of the day might be kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night. Now, a third of the sun was struck. God will supernaturally reduce the intensity of the celestial bodies by 1/3. The loss of solar heat will cause a radical drop in temperature, producing severe changes meteorologically, botanically, and in the biological cycles of the earth. But this is temporary. Okay, so Earth has often been said that we sit on a knife's edge, right? And any closer to the sun, everybody on the planet would burn up. Any further away, we'd all freeze to death, okay? And we know historically, scientifically, that the Earth has gone through 2 ice ages that we can certainly say that has happened. And there's plenty of evidence for that. One was the major ice age, which everybody thinks about with the woolly mammoths and and all that stuff. And then there was a lesser one, okay, that was just everything got cold, but it didn't get cold like Ice Age. Like if y'all seen the kids' movie Ice Age, where there's glaciers moving and that kind of stuff. It was just a smaller event. But the Earth has had a history of heating up, cooling down, heating up, cooling down. Now, if the radiation from the sun was blocked by a third, okay, what's going to happen? temperature's going to drop, right? So now we've got a whole different set of circumstances, right? So no food, no water, no heat, right? And so this is going to be a dramatic series of events. And it says here, he says supernaturally. Obviously all of this is supernatural. It's all from God, right? Okay. But I would almost say, okay, if you've had everything described here, you've had earthquakes, you've had a meteor, you've had a comet, you've had, obviously, there's atmospheric destruction and stuff like that. And I think about it on the thing that I'm a sci-fi junkie. I don't know if y'all know this, but one of my favorite things to do, the Sci-Fi Channel used to show a bunch of these cheesy, cheap sci-fi movies. And I love them because I made a game out of figuring out which person was going to die first. Okay, because it's only going to be two characters that ever survive a movie. It's going to be your hero and his girlfriend. Okay, that's going to be the two people that survive. And I'm kind of oversimplifying it or whatever, but it's funny because, it might be a giant alligator on the loose, or a snake, or Bigfoot, or a meteor is going to hit the planet, or, there's a volcano that's going to erupt and kill everybody. But there's this one movie called Day After Tomorrow, and it talks about something like this massive ice age that starts, okay? But it takes it from a different perspective. But everybody, the answer to all the world's problems, it seems like in these sci-fi movies, if we could just get a nuclear bomb to explode in space and destroy that asteroid, it'll save the whole planet. But everybody here on the earth is scared to death of nuclear weapons, and rightfully so, because what would happen if everybody who had nukes just started shooting them? The fallout, just throw just take the death out of it. Not only are all these people dead, and then the radiation, okay, that would poison the atmosphere, but they're scared to death that all of that would create something known as a nuclear winter. Okay, so if your atmosphere was so clouded and so dusty and so that only a third of the radiation that we need to come in from the sun, that's why the ozone layer is so important, y'all. It only lets about 3% of the total rays from the sun get in. All right, if it cuts that by a third and only 2% get in, all of a sudden you're looking at another ice age type event, right? It's not going to happen all at once, but it will. It will happen. And it's just because everything won't penetrate. Now, supernatural or just is a side effect of all of these things. However God has it mapped out, it's going to happen. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he almost makes it sound like God's going to just take his arm, wipe out a third of the sun, a third of the moon. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think all the events that's going to happen, it's going to create a situation where the atmosphere blocks out a third of all the good that would come from anywhere else. Does that make sense? That's my take on it. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's what I think. Picking up here in verse 13, and this will be our final point. Then I looked, and I heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew directly overhead, "Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth at the blast of the other trumpets that the three angels are about to blow." Okay, so here's some significance here, okay? Woe, woe, woe. Three woes. One for each of the remaining trumpet blasts. The first four trumpets are already unimaginable to us, right? But they are still child's play compared to the next three that are about to come, okay? So if you picture about everything that's happened, okay, so all the grass is grown, a third of the trees, a third of all aquatic life, all the ships, all the transports, a third of the ships. Then you have a third of the waters. So now we don't have food, we don't have critters, we don't have waters, we don't have trees, we don't have any of this. And on top of all that, we're going to have basically what sounds like another ice age type event, right? Everything's going to get cold real fast. Now, that's just my thoughts on it. I could be dead wrong about that. But all of this is going to happen. But as bad as that is, it's still not as bad as what's about to happen, right? Now, I was reading a book here a while back, and it was talking about some folks. They were trying to get ready for the winter storms, the winter, and there's this one old guy. He was by himself. He lived up in a cabin by himself, and he started to realize this winter was colder than he thought it was going to be, and he was kind of a hermit, and he didn't have enough supplies to make it through winter. So even though he didn't want to do it, he needed to go down to town and get supplies if he was going to make it through winter, right? And the thing about it is, just like now, we're technically already in fall. September, starting to feel good outside, okay? But this is the time of harvest right now, right? And why do you harvest now? You harvest up all the crops that you've had all summer long. You get that final harvest in, and the purpose of getting that final harvest in is what? That's going to sustain you through the winter, okay? Sidebar to that, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a fertilizer guy, but I'm going to tell you, there are effects of this Russia-Ukraine deal people don't even know yet, because a large percentage of worldwide rice production comes out of Ukraine. Now, you think about how many countries around the world eat rice, okay? The poorest countries in the world still can afford rice. Now, if you cut that down by half, let's say, you think about how many countries around the world are going to be without rice, okay? And that's not the only thing they produce. I'm just making a point. So there are a lot of folks that are going into winter ill supplied. Are you with me? And this right here, if you take away all the plants, a third of all the plants, all the green grass, poison a third of the water, a third of all the overseas travel stuff, and you take away all the swimmies in the water, okay? So, and then all of a sudden, here comes a sudden nuclear winter type event.
We'd be dead already.
Well, we won't be there, hopefully. We already raptured out. We talked about this last week. This is the time. Most people agree with this, that the church will be raptured out before these events occur. But that goes back to about how you have the prayers of the saints, and then the incense and of the other people that are redeemed and all that kind of stuff. But you start getting into all of this. I don't know when the church is going to be raptured out. I just don't think the church will have to go through this. Okay, I think we'll be raptured out based on what I know and what I've studied. Does that make me right? Absolutely not. We may be here to the bitter end, and if we are, we'll just do the best we can. But I will tell you this, to your point, if God made mankind, if not anything else, made them resilient. And if you think about through the history of mankind, everything that they've overcome, I mean, every time we should have not survived, we've made it somehow or another. Now, maybe not all of us, okay, but we've made it somehow or another. If you look at the technological advances, okay, so in my lifetime that I have seen, and I remember the first phone I seen that was not attached to a wall was a bag phone in a car, and it was the size of a briefcase, okay? And if you were lucky, you could call somebody. If you could get a radio tower or whatever, and it wasn't like, see, now you pretty well tuck a cell phone pretty well anywhere you want to and call somebody from just about anywhere. Now, there's still dead spots and stuff like that, but generally speaking, if you got a cell phone, you can get a hold of somebody. And, and then when I was in school, I got a Nokia phone, okay? It was one of them brick phones, okay? And all it could do, it couldn't text, you couldn't do internet, but you could call people, right? And that was it. And I have kept all the phones that I've ever had. I got them at my house. And it's funny to watch how technology has progressed, And it's just like this right here. This is a miracle of modern science. This little handheld device right here has, a calculator, has a camera, it's a computer. It's a computer in your hand. The first computers were the size of this room. And now they fit in the palm of your hand. And it's just, and I'm just using that to say, I think people are going to figure out how to live. I think it's in God's design. We're designed to learn, adapt, and survive. I think people will learn, adapt, and survive. Well, a lot of people die who weren't able to. Yeah, but will there still be some that do? Yeah, there's going to be people figure it out. And unfortunately, through history, probably the cruelest and the you're either the smartest, strongest, or the cruelest, and that's how you're going to survive. Okay. And there's some people ain't going to be able to survive without McDonald's. I'm just telling you. So that was a joke, by the way. There's some people ain't going to be able to survive if they can't drive down to the store. I mean, and you think about it, I can't say that we're any better. I mean, I'm just used to going to the grocery store when I need stuff. What happens in the grocery store isn't there, and I'm kind of convinced that to a degree that's kind of the way a lot of folks need to get back to. I'm not saying you have to go out and till up a field with a mule and wagon and all that kind of stuff, but I think it would be wise of people in general to have a little garden, to consider having chickens or something like that. A lot of people are. My biggest thing, and I told my cousin this the other day. I said maybe we just ought to get all our folks buy a place. It's a pretty good plot of land with about 200 acres, and we'll just move all our people right in the middle of it, and we'll just farm the land. We'll turn into Amish right quick, and we'll figure it out, But anyway,
That's called a commune.
a commune, as long as it's not communist. So, all right. Anyway, let's wrap up before we go any worse here. All right, Brother William, will you dismiss us in prayer, and we'll get out of here.